What's up, everybody? It's Zane Denani, your host, doing the Tight 10 once again. Let's get into it. All right, we're going to go from where we left off yesterday. We have some notes on David Montgomery. Cameron Wolfe from NFL.com came back, and I guess ESPN these days, came out and said that David Montgomery is going to be a potential 3-down back. That goes in line with some of the other reports that we've seen in the past. Think he's going to have the Joe Mixon role. The Colts wide receiver 3 is going to be Ashton Doolin. He's the favorite as of right now. Continues to do well in practice. We had another tweet on that later from today. Cam Scatterbo was participating in team drills for the first time yesterday. That was big news because obviously coming off the injury, that's what we want to see. We had a Jaguars beat writer who may or may not have meant to say this to me. But what they ended up saying was, Parker Washington can play outside. Jacoby Myers can play on the inside. The 3 wide receiver set can have all 3 of them. And then, BTJ would also play on the outside. So just some speculation. I think that Parker Washington could play in the 2 wide receiver sets because I don't know that he's necessarily just a slot player. Paul Denar wrote a nice article about Eric All. Again, is just very consistent. I keep seeing the same things happen over and over and over again about Eric All. Eric All is going to play a role in this offense. It's going to take away from Mike Gesicki. It's probably going to take some away from Andre Yoshivas as well because it's going to go and be more of a 12 personnel situation. Underwear Olympics, but John Shipley wrote that Tootin left the defense firmly in the dust on several big runs and team drills. Basically, Tootin's been looking really nice. We're not wearing pads right now, so it's not something that I feel like anyone should hang their hat on, but it is meaningful to me that Chris Rodriguez is missing time. Bashal Tootin keeps proving himself. Cam Ward, I have another one on him today, but Cam Ward does not look very good at the moment, and he's just not been in sync with Wan'Dale Robinson. Cam Ward really struggles with some of the accuracy issues, and I think that we're just kind of hearing more about that. Obviously, there's time to get better in the system, etc. We're early in the offseason, but some of the same concerns that I had of him coming out, and then what we saw from him last year as well. There's also a note in the same article about Nick Singleton. Rookie running back Nick Singleton has been getting more and more work, and I've been impressed by what I've seen so far. I'm looking forward to seeing Singleton in pads. I think the significant part there is that Nick Singleton's coming off of an injury, so the fact that he's now practicing is pretty big. Josh Palmer was back at practice yesterday, and Skylar Bell was gone. I wrote a big thread that I'm not going to go into detail right now, but basically talking about route depth and how it's underrated for fantasy. Some players have a mix of shorter routes and some players have a mix of deeper routes, and the deeper routes are more volatile and produce less fantasy stats. That's the TLDR. I'm going to write an article about this and what that means in terms of players to target and potentially fade, and based off of format too. Some notes on DJ Moore and James Cook, because James Cook was at practice for the first time this offseason. It's clear that Allen is looking for DJ Moore when the two are on the field together during team drills. Allen was looking for Moore in the red zone and connected on a couple of attempts. I think it's just good that they're getting reps together, that they're connecting. Huge for them. 3 main Bears pass catching items. So Luther Burden had a nice day yesterday. Rome looking fine. He didn't really do too much. And then Loveland's been moving around the formation, which is what we like to hear because we want to hear him being in the slot on the outside and connected to the line of scrimmage as an inline. Some Texans schematics. I keep reading a little bit more about them using 12 personnel because last year they didn't really have the opportunity to as much. They didn't have they lost Brevin Jordan. Cade Stover was kind of in and out of the lineup too. And now they drafted a tight end, and they're getting those 2 other guys back as well. So I think the big thing here is just like we may see some more 12 personnel. What that does is take Jalen Noel off the field a little bit more, potentially Tank Dell, or even Jaden Higgins if Tank Dell looks really good. So there's some risk there, but all should be good for Nico Collins. Jordan Love is working on his footwork. I think that's big. It's good when you self-scout and you're looking at yourself in the mirror and you're saying, guys, what is my issue? What am I seeing issues with so far this year or in my history? And the biggest thing that I see with Jordan Love when I watch him is that he has a lot of back foot throws. I don't think that's any surprise. So it's good that he's recognizing that and then also trying to address that. That doesn't mean it will happen, but it's good to self-scout. Sorry, got a call. The other thing that I saw was on Elijah Surratt and Jacoby Lane. There was some quotes that head coach Jesse Minter was talking about. He mentioned that one of the two receivers are probably going to get good playing time. And yesterday Surratt had kind of like the better day. And based on what I'm seeing, Surratt's kind of like been more involved too. But one of them has the chance of getting good enough playing time. Ben Johnson's ahead of the game. Basically, he keeps talking about what defensive coordinators are going to do. He likes to be multiple. He likes to basically have the same looks, and then he predicts what they're going to do based off of that, and then changes his scheme kind of based off what he predicts that the defensive coordinators are going to do. Like, subscribe, all sorts of stuff. Elijah Surratt made the catch of the spring, pulling in a contested grab deep downfield. Surratt received more snaps with the first team because Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman didn't practice. That's big. Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston both have come on strong. Concepcion had some concentration issues early. He's been figuring it out lately. Had a deep catch yesterday, but it was wiped out by OPI. Jackson Dart's been struggling a little bit, especially in the deep pass game. He did connect on one with Odell Beckham, it was yesterday, but for the most part, he's been somewhat struggling. Obviously they're missing some of their best players with Neighbors. And then, Darius Slayton's not there as well, someone he has a rapport with, but and it's a new system, but it's just something to keep in mind of as things go on. The Cowboys keep having nice puff pieces about Jaden Blue. Had maturity issues. Shoddy said that he's super talented, smart. That now they're finally seeing all of this pay off for him. That he's finally turning a corner. I think that he's going to be the RB2. He has to keep it up, obviously, but it's his job to lose at the moment. If you're asking me. AJ Brown usage, they're kind of moving him around the formation a little bit. They used Kayshon Boutte as the X yesterday. They put him at AJ Brown as the Z kind of move piece, and then Demario Douglas in the slot. I just think that's interesting because it's just different than what we all assumed him just being an X receiver. I think it's positive for him. Hunter Henry's been the busiest pass catcher at Pat's training camp so far, and he's way ahead of all the other tight ends. That includes Eli Raridan. Jalen Hurts hasn't been very sharp in practice. He missed Devonta Smith over the middle. He was holding the ball too long. He got sacked. I'm worried about Jalen Hurts this season. I mean, in a best ball situation, you're always drafting as if you're right. But in a lot of other situations, like redraft, he's a guy I'm definitely avoiding. Saquon seems to be really involved in the pass game. Keeps checking down to him, all sorts of stuff like that. I think that that's a feature of the Sean Mannion offense. So I'm a little bit bullish on what Saquon Barkley could look like this year. The 49ers RB2 battle is 50-50. Basically, choose your fighter between Kalen Black and Jordan James. They're going to fight it out during training camp this year. Wide receiver 3 battle seems to be roughly the same too. Stribling versus Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk's been missing for part of training camp, so I think that gives Deshaun Stribling a little bit of a heads up, and then also Stribling's a better blocker. But it could end up being something where Kirk has the role early, they're splitting, and then late in the season we'll see Deshaun Stribling more, which is what matters for fantasy. Isaiah Bond is looking really good, and so is Denzel Boston. There's more on Boston that's going to come later, but Boston's been the one of the two rookies that I keep hearing every single day. Ryan Flournoy is the wide receiver 3 for the Cowboys. That's just locked in stone. So draft as that, as if that's happening. Running back pecking order for the Lions is Jahmyr Gibbs, who's the bell cow, Isaiah Pacheco, who's the spellback and clear RB2, and then Sion Vaki, who is the RB3. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt is still out with an undisclosed injury. John Keim said they didn't know what the injury was. The Commanders don't have to tell us either, and they don't know if it's going to have any impact on his availability for training camp. He's definitely not solidified as a guy yet, and he has competition with Rachaad White coming in. They're going to ask Dan Quinn next week when they have another chance to talk to him about what his status is, basically. He also talked about, John Keim also talked about Chig Okonkwo, and he said they want him to be a big part of the offense and the pass game specifically, and that he's been working on his footwork with David Rye, who he spoke really highly of, which is one of the most detailed coaches that David Blau's ever seen, and working on footwork and stuff like that. So basically, he's going to be a big part of the offense, probably the second option, unless they sign somebody who outkicks their coverage. Casey Conception had some reps with the ones yesterday. We knew that was going to come. The Saints are kind of non-committal on what's happening with Alvin Kamara so far. It's causing a little bit of confusion on my end. But for now, it seems like he's just on the roster, and they're going to continue operating like that until the front office figures it out. Jalen Noel had a good day. He's caught a touchdown pass. He's been hitting every single day, basically, but at the same time, like I said earlier, they might do more 12 personnel, so we may not see the big season out of him. He could have big weeks, unpredictable, but maybe not the big season that everybody's hoping for. Cam Ward, like I said earlier, missing receivers a lot, very inaccurate. I'm not very bullish on that situation given the offensive line. I'm not bullish on that situation for this year. Quinshon Judkins said he feels like he's in a good place with his rehab as long as he can stay healthy. Judkins figures to get the bulk of the carries. I think we all know that. Judkins is going to be basically a workhorse if he can stay healthy. Underwear Olympics, but Marshawn Lloyd is in drills. He looks really good. Everybody keeps saying that he looks good in practice every single day, basically, dating back to previous seasons as well. It's just a matter of if he can stay healthy, and that's a huge if with Marshawn Lloyd. I keep hearing good things about Jalen Royals, too. He's getting reps with the ones because Rashee Rice is unavailable. So it's really good to see that he keeps doing this and stacking days. There's a history with Andy Reid and rookies, especially later round rookies, who just don't get as much playing time as you would think. I know we all think of guys like Isaiah Pacheco who did get opportunities, but there's a big history of guys that have not. He likes people to learn the offense. It sounds like Jalen Royals is doing that and that he's looking good. That doesn't mean that he's like some breakout player, but it does mean, people liked him coming out of college for a number of reasons. I think Rashee Rice is a huge risk in terms of potentially getting, another thing that happens to him. And so there's just opportunity for Jalen Royals, and maybe he can seize that. There's not really much risk in Jonathan Taylor holding out. I think that's big. And then Ashton Dulin keeps showing up and keeps looking more like the wide receiver 3, like I said earlier. Tucker Kraft says that he wants to play week 1. That's about 10 months post-op, so seems pretty realistic. Bashal Tootin, this was funny. He went on record and he was basically like, guys, I ran a 4.32 at the combine, but I could have ran better and I would run better now. I just thought that was interesting because I'm like, this guy, people were scared about the explosive stuff with him. And I mean, he's one of the fastest running backs in the NFL. This one's just for fun. I don't think there's anything to read too much into it just yet, but Damon Claiborne, Aaron Jones compared him to Jahmyr Gibbs, and I just said I think that's going to go viral, and it's starting to from Alex Lewis's account. Tet McMillan, he came back to practice. I'm slightly concerned about his foot just because he has a history of it. He said that he's not having surgery or anything. I think that's going to be in a future tweet that I had, but still something that I'm personally a little bit concerned on for him. Just wanted to remind people, Dontavian Wicks has a pre-existing relationship with Sean Mannion, and we've seen the separation numbers for Dontavian Wicks in the past. Very good separator, cannot catch the ball, but sometimes variance can happen with catching the football. The Jaguars beat. This was an interesting conversation. This is Ryan O'Callahan, I think, which is one of the Jags beat writers that you can trust. But basically, he said that they were having a conversation, and they said Brian Thomas didn't look good in practices last year. This year, he looks a lot better, very good. He's having big plays every single day, basically, that they've seen. But they were not sure whether or not he was going to be on the roster for this season. So I just think that's interesting as they go about their business. I think he's definitely going to be on the roster, in my opinion. I don't think they're just doing all of this and fluffing him up to trade him right now, but it is interesting that they said that they weren't sure whether or not he was going to be on the roster. Yeah, this is Tet just talking about the fact that he doesn't need surgery on his foot, which is good. Mike Macdonald confirmed that the offense will basically be similar to last year. So schematic-wise, everything's going to look very similar. Then he talked about Jadarian Price and Manuel Wilson. He was asked directly about them, and he just said that they're both really good players in their own right. They're putting themselves in good position going into the offseason, and he's excited about both. That's kind of, to me, just a throwaway comment. It doesn't really mean much. Then he talked about Rashid Shaheed. He was asked about it specifically. He said he deserves a lot of credit. He's been here the whole time, had a great attitude, set a lot of personal records in the offseason program, and then timing of plays looks like it should, boost his chemistry and everything with Sam Darnold. Then he talked about, he had a couple injury updates too. One on Torrey Horton. So he said everything's positive with him. He's not doing anything today or tomorrow, so he won't do anything basically for minicamp. But he may be available at the beginning of training camp, and they're hoping that he's going to be out there. So I think he will be available for them in training camp. It'll be fun to see him come training camp, because that was a guy I was high on coming out, and then he actually looked pretty good in the games too. Then he gave another update on Zach Charbonnet. He had a little bit of a throwaway comment on this, but he said that Charbonnet is on the exact schedule that you would think a guy like Zach Charbonnet would be on, which to me means like he's ahead of the game, because I think Mike Macdonald really, really likes Zach Charbonnet. It's kind of the same as like Dave Canales with Chuba, where it's like, this is the leader. I like this guy. And then he smiled and he said he could be available at the start of the season, which I don't think is true, because it's going to be like 7 months post-op, but maybe like late October, early November, something like that sounds realistic for him. David Boston's making big plays every single day. This was a first-team offense from Deshaun Watson, because Watson is the first-team offense today. Made a big play again. Sounds like he's ahead of the game in terms of between him and Casey Conception. Mike McCarthy is probably going to do more 12 personnel than we actually thought he would initially, because of his history with 11. And he said that he's basically going to make everything come back to what he has available on his roster. So that says bad stuff for maybe a Jeremy Bernard type of player. I think it's positive for Pat Freiermuth and also Darnell Washington, but I'm not like counting on Darnell Washington for fantasy or anything. This was big. There was something on Kellen Moore. He gave an update on Chris Olave's medical status. He said he hasn't been able to do team activities throughout OTAs and isn't here today. Says they will check in on that. He's not participating in team, and it's all related to the blood clot issue for Olave. And then there was somebody that followed up and had some information on Olave's history with this blood clot and what that means. And it sounds like there is some risk there, and what it could mean for him. But I think we all just have to kind of take it one at a time and see where things go. All right. That's the Tight 10 today. Thank you, guys.